Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. As usual, we will be speaking about important files. Today we'll be speaking in two segments about two important events that took place. The first was the participation of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in via definitely video conference in the inaugural session of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum that is taking place in Russia, where the president addressed this World Forum on the developments of the world crises, which are reflecting on the whole world. And the president has highlighted how it is reflecting on Egypt, part of the Arab and African regions. The president definitely spoke about how this reflected on emerging economies, on growing economies, and even developed economies. But his focus was how this reflected on Egypt and Africa particularly. The president has also spoken about the measures or the economic reforms Egypt has been taking in order to be able to withstand the challenges that it is facing, and which has given Egypt a kind of breathtaking, or rather life breath to its economy to withstand the economic disruptions. We'll be speaking about this in our first segment. In our next segment, we'll be speaking about the return of Libyan concerned parties to Cairo for talks that are sponsored by the UN, by the United Nations, and supervised by the UN Special Envoy for Libya. They are taking place here in Egypt, and we'll be speaking about the details of this or these talks and the developments of those important and crucial discussions up till this minute. Before we delve into our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a telephone call on Wednesday from Bahraini King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. The phone call tackled bilateral cooperation in the framework of the distinguished relations and close ties between the two countries and two peoples. The two leaders also exchanged points of view on a number of regional and international issues of common concern. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received on Wednesday Chief of Staff of the United Arab Emirates Armed Forces Lieutenant General Hamad Mohammed Thani Al Rumaythi. During the meeting, President al-Sisi extended greetings to the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, asserting the deeply rooted relations linking Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, adding that these relations are a cornerstone for stability in the Middle East and the Arab world. For his part, the Chief of Staff of the United Arab Emirates Armed Forces asserted his country's keen interest on boosting bilateral strategic cooperation, notably in the military and security fields. U.S.-led coalition forces captured a senior leader of Daesh terrorist group in a military operation in northern Syria on Thursday. A coalition statement said that the captured Daesh leader was an unexperienced bomb maker and operational facilitator, describing him as one of the top leaders of the terrorist group's branch in Syria. The statement described the operation as successful, with no civilians harmed and no injuries to the coalition forces. 3 Palestinians were killed in the early hours of Friday and 8 others wounded in an operation by Israeli forces in Jenin in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian news agency said that the 3 men were killed when Israeli forces opened fire on the vehicle in which the men were traveling. The agency added that fierce clashes ensued the killing. The Israeli army said it was conducting an operation in Jenin to locate weapons from 2 different locations. Lebanon on Tuesday made a new offer to visiting American mediator Amos Hochstein over a maritime border deal, with Israel holding back on demands for territory where Israel plans to imminently extract gas. Beirut's proposal, however, included a claim for all of a separate field that it had initially only sought part of. Last week, Lebanon requested Hoshenstein's visit after a gas production vessel arrived in Israel to launch extraction operations in the Karish offshore field, drawing condemnation from Lebanon, which had laid claim to parts of it. But in meetings on Tuesday with Hoshenstein, Lebanon's top leaders pushed for the country's maritime border to exclude Karish and include the whole of the nearby Qana field instead. Lebanese President Michel Aoun urged the U.S. envoy to proceed swiftly. Iraqi lawmakers from firebrand Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr's bloc resigned, a move designed to end 8 months of political paralysis. Iraq's parliament speaker Mohammed al-Halbousi said on Twitter that after receiving resignation letters from the 73 lawmakers, al-Sadr on Thursday had urged the member of parliament from his bloc to ready resignation papers in a bid to break the parliamentary logjam and create space for the establishment of a new government.